most people are listening to. Like there's a long tail, right? Like Seth Godin talks about the long tail of the internet, and like you could build like micro, audiences and all that stuff in the long tail. But if you're going to get into sync, which is like very commercial, it's going to be something that's probably towards the the higher edge of the.
I'll make
tail,
a full confession. It's like this. You will often hear like, don't fake it because they'll pick up on it and it won't come out good. But I've had some success faking it. Like I've had some success, where I wrote something that like I wouldn't play live, but I did it for the but I'm not ashamed of it. I was like, let me try my hand at this style, and it was a good exercise in sort of just exploring an area that maybe wasn't necessarily my taste, but it worked for that particular sound and that particular ad campaign. I've done it several times as there are different approaches when you're creating music. Sometimes you're making stuff that you really identify with personally. And sometimes you're making stuff as a craftsman, as somebody who has a certain skill. And when you're writing for ads, film, and television, you are called upon to do all sorts of genres and styles. And I love music. It's not like I love, funk, pop, and, and indie. And I don't just love, say, Fish. I love music. So if you love music, then it's all good. It's fun to sometimes make an 80s metal track. Do I listen to 80s metal all the time? Do I play in an 80s metal hair band? No, but the Cousins have done 80s metal stuff for some theme song stuff, and it's so fun because it's just fun to go outside your wheelhouse. So I would say,
yeah,
as far as sync goes, I don't look at it like compromising. Look at it like, putting yourself out of your wheelhouse, out of your box. That's healthy as a creative person to do. So if you're going to do that anyway, and it's a healthy thing to do, look to the sync world and see what's going on and see if any of that stuff you can connect with or you think you can do well. There's nothing wrong with doing that and finding and aiming your music to a place where it could have a proper home and do well for you financially and all of that. It's all good.
Yeah.
So, I
love that.
And
in
sync music,
80s,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. 80s, Bleachers, fun, that kind of stuff. Haim, all that stuff is totally vibing and cool. I would say what's falling out a little bit is, the indie folk pop clap stuff. Kind of screws over Distant Cousins a little bit, but not really. We do a lot of different things. But indie folk pop clap, that stuff used to be like everywhere. I'm hearing a little less of it, but I'm hearing more of check out Danger Twins. They're a good reference. Kind of cool,
I will.
Funky, grooving, modern production, minimal production. That is definitely, some of it's there. I'm hearing a lot of that too, where make every sound count, Yeah,
I love that. That's something I'm trying to work on myself.
Yeah.
I think when you're at the beginning, you're always just trying to layer stuff as much as possible because it's easier to create new sounds like that. But then you make a big mess that you need to clean up afterwards in the mix, and then nothing really stands out as much afterwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But to throw on a caveat, like I just make sure when you're making something, make sure it doesn't feel correct. Make sure it feels right. Like, would you listen to this if it wasn't just for sync? Yeah, I faked it here and there, doing something that maybe I didn't vibe with per se. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if the song hits all the right markers in terms of, this sounds like it's sync, but it doesn't feel good or feel right or vibe right, then you might, ultimately anyone picking a music for a film or TV or commercial placement is a fan of music and wants to vibe with your track, So it should hit the right markers lyrically and hit the right spaces vibe-wise and production-wise. Sure, that's all well and good, and that will get you in the door. But also make sure that you don't compromise the actual, at its core, the taste of the dish. Don't compromise the flavor of the dish, even though you're putting in, quote, the right ingredients. If it tastes bad, it tastes bad. Doesn't matter if you're like, well, I followed the recipe and I cooked it properly and I put it on the stove for this amount of time. Yeah, well, maybe there's something wrong with the stove, or maybe the flavor wasn't exactly right, or who knows? At the end of the day,
maybe you just need some more salt,
Yeah, maybe it needs more of this or that, but go with what at the end of the day, it has to taste good,
Yeah, I love it. So let's jump into Distant Cousins for a second, because we're gonna break down one of your tracks, or we'll just have a listen and talk a little bit about it.
Sure.
I'm wondering if I should ask you the question first. Let's just listen to it. Let's just go into it. This is the Sauce segment. So we're gonna pull up the opening track on their latest record, Next of Kin. It's called Lights On, and we'll listen to a short little snippet of it, and then we'll talk about it. Sound cool?
Sounds good.
Truth take you just the way that you are. Turn your lights on. Turn your lights on. No more hiding in the dark. Turn your lights on. You got to shatter the silence with your beautiful noise. You know the birds will be bees and the girls will be boys. Secrets will eat you if you let them defeat. You know you might as well just be who you are. Turn your lights on. Turn your lights on. No more hiding in the dark. Turn your lights on. Turn your lights on. Yeah. Hey, you can run away from what you got inside. Hey, you can run away. Turn your lights on.
I was like, usually I stop at 90 seconds, but then you had a breakdown. I had a feeling other stuff was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, awesome track. I love it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess my favorite thing is the vocals, I would have to say, for sure. And then maybe followed by, like, I don't know, the hugeness and the drums and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the vocals all sound vibey, like also the lead vocal, but also the gang vocals. Like, I feel like that's where the song really, comes alive. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah. Do you have any specific questions on the track? Or, I mean, if you want to dig
what's
deep.
I wanted to ask you about gang vocals just in general, because, like, all over this record, it's just, like, epic gang vocals.
Right.
So how do you keep that energy? Are you guys all in the same room at the same time, same microphone? Like, how do you do that?
So there's a couple of approaches. Turn my gain down here. Basically, yeah, everybody does a lead vocal and then a double of their vocal. That's sort of standard for the close-up vocals. Then and if somebody's still on the mic, maybe throw in a high octave of their own voice occasionally, something like that. So we'll do that for harmonies, low, middle, and high. And then oftentimes I will throw on an extra high. We call it like the, lady cousin, Ami lady something. Turn your lights on! And I will literally tuck that way down, just to bring out the melody, especially if we've done 3 parts in the middle. So those are for the close ones. Then there's a great trick in Logic where you can loop a section of 4 bars. I'm not sure if you know about this, but you loop a section of 4 or 8 bars or whatever. And then if you just press record, after 4 bars, it will go back to the beginning and take folders every 4 bars. So we'll do the chorus. Turn your lights on, turn your lights on, turn no more out in the night, boom, turn your lights on, we'll do it again. Do that in the room. We stand around the mic, and every time it loops, we basically try to stand in a different position. So I give an extra maybe 4 beats right before it comes back around again. So it will loop for 4 bars, then an extra. Okay, now we have 4 beats. And we each run to a different part, stand on a chair, stand on the other corner, turn around, look down, look up, move around the mic in sort of a musical chair style rotation, and sing the chorus again. And then I'll point with my fingers for like everyone go low. We'll go turn your lights, and we'll all do super low. And then we'll all do like unison. Then we'll try maybe a layer or 2 of 3-part harmony all together. So it gives a lush, dynamic blend of all the 3 of us together and gives it that room sound. And then after that, let's say it's looped, I don't know, 5 times, 6 times, whatever. You can unpack that comp folder to new tracks, and you have your game vocal right there. The challenge is if you don't actually have a big room that you can really diversify the spaces that you're singing in, you can get some kind of weird psychoacoustic issue where things just start to sound crunchy and bad. The best thing
not phasey.
It's not quite phasey that's happening, because it's not like the notes are hitting and resonating at the exact notes, but it's that you're singing the same parts in the exact same space. And Jacob Collier,
I guess the qualities of the room,
don't change so much.
They compound on themselves.
Correct. So what happens is, Jacob Collier talked about when he records, I mean, he made a snare sound once in one of his videos that he talked about where he recorded here, then he went to the bathroom. Like he just changed all the spaces for the layering. So the overtones of every single room gave it a real rich feel. And the best gang vocals I've had is when you can actually do that. Like literally record someone outside, then in the room, then in a bigger space somewhere else, whatever it is. If you can do that, it's definitely better. If not, I would say it's a less is more thing because there's 3 of us, maybe 2 or 3 tracks of that. And then using micro shift by Sound Toys and some other stereo delay, sample delay kinds of techniques, you can make sure to get it, adding some chorus to some and not to the other, panning one, keeping one center, slightly playing with direction mixing and things. You can get that wider stuff and get rid of that compounded like annoyingness that can happen. But
Do you play with formants as well? Like the formant on
single
on the
vocals a
altar board?
little bit, yeah, sometimes to give it a little bit of that. Sometimes that cuts too hard and you can hear like you can hear too much harsh weirdness, but with a little bit of blend with little altar boy Sound Toys, you can kind of you can get some good stuff playing with the formants. But generally speaking, it's that mix of the close mic vocals and the gang vocals, and then I usually sometimes will stack them according to the chorus that I'm on. So the first chorus will have 3 tracks of gang, then 5, then 10 on the last one, and maybe automate the high vocal to be up on the last one. And then there's also ad-lib vocals that get thrown in. That'll be somebody just wailing. I think on this track at the end, there's probably somebody doing that to add energy at the end, tucked back in some Valhalla reverb or something. And then there's also sometimes a party track. We call it the party track, where is it happening on this track? I'm not sure. Could be on the breakdown, but there's a track of us just chatting and making noise. Like there's a real like, hello, come on out. Hey, woohoo, yeah, hoot, oh, come on out. There's just vibe, where we'll sit in the room, we'll throw it up and we'll just start, we call it the party track,
Yeah, I love it. You can hear the energy of the 3 of you in that track, I think. Like you can hear that's not just like just one at a time. You know what I mean? You can hear that there's more things happening. You know?
So that's how you get that wall of vocal.
Yeah, love it.
And it's hard to compress and mix that stuff. You have to be careful with compression on gang vocals too, because you compress too many things, and especially room sound. If you compress too much, I run into those challenges too, where like you want it to cut through, but you can't. So you got to blend in that's why the close mics are helpful. So.
Yeah, maybe a little tape saturation would help with that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And parallel processing is a big one too. I've started to use a lot of that now. For lead vocals and for gang vocals, I will throw on a bus like an Echo Boy, Sound Toys Echo Boy delay with very little time difference, like almost like just like a half a millisecond difference, and then just bus different vocals to that bus so that it just will bring them out a little bit without
I do that
extra.
also. Yeah. I do that with like a doubler, like
doubler too.
that kind of thing.
I do it on 2 different ones, a doubler and a delay, so that they can just come through. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll have to try out the
I learned that from the Lumineers
technique.
engineer when I was looking to try to get a vocal to cut through without over compressing it or even adding crunch. I just wanted it to come through. And I watched this video online on YouTube of somebody mixing a Lumineers track, or maybe it was Avid Brothers or something, but he had like, so many buses with the slightest bit of different verbs and delays and things. And that was really interesting to me.
Yeah. I love it. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so I also love all the bold decisions in the track of like, there's like a lot of hard panning and stuff. I feel like people forget about that these days. Yeah. And it really gives you like a sense of space. Like it opens up only one guitar on like one channel, Yeah.
So. I think, there's that vampy kind of guitar happening.
Yeah. And there were a few other items that were also like just kind of randomly on the right side or the left side. And you just kind of, it gives you a sense of space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And contrast too, like for things to just keep your, the goal with any record, excuse me, any record or song is you want to fight the boredom. You got to keep people in it, So any kinds of ways as the track progresses to keep that contrast and excitement going. When it drops out at the bridge, those 2 guitars pan left to right, totally thinned out, was sort of, I think, Jack White inspired. We were listening to something where how he how his guitars do that. And then that little glitchy sound